Hello, beautiful family, and welcome to another conversation around nature and nature spirits. And I think we're going to touch on subjects like sensitivity today and talk about the Fae. And we have today beautiful Dorothee Sophie Royal. Is that right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And Dorothee was one of the first people to respond to my request for people to step forward who wanted to be interviewed and to share their experiences. So I'm really excited by this interview because it kind of feels different because I don't know you so well as like maybe I knew some of the other people. But I love what you do. You're the founder of MoonTentCo. And I'm going to read a little bit from your website just to give a little introduction to who you are. So the website reads, MoonTent is dedicated to the wisdom from the heart of the feminine. We believe in beauty medicine, flower magic, and living with nature's cycles. Dorothee Sophie Royal is a writer, producer, medicine maker, and mother. She is the founder of MoonTent, a media platform that exists to uplift feminine wisdom and make it easy for women to celebrate their cycles. She hosts the bi-monthly Moonwise podcast and was selected in 2018 as one of the 50 women for 50 Women Can Change the World in Media and Entertainment. I thought that was just so lovely to read that and share a little bit of your energy with everybody. So I think my first sort of way in here feels to ask you why you felt called to share. So I mean that can include some background or just
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's really an honor to be on your show. And I've been a fan and watcher of your YouTube channel. And I was telling you that once I discovered your channel, I just kind of stayed awake at night and watched many of the interviews. And it felt like such a homecoming to see, that someone else, another woman, is putting herself out there to make media about things that in our dominant culture are really not being talked about, although I think we're finding more and more people secretly have these connections and have these interests. And so I think the growth of your show kind of indicates that people are so curious, and it really lights up something within, and that's what it did for me. And so it's been such a joy to watch the interviews. And then when I saw that you were looking for other people to interview, there's of course that fear where it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to talk about these things publicly and like weird? Or am I really going to just say, yeah, this is my experience and this is who I am. And it's also what I value and what I want to see more of in the world. And I think that we're in a little bit of a dawn after dark ages. And I just hope for younger women and younger men who maybe are still in touch with their connection to nature, that they can be guided and furthered in that, instead of just told like, oh, you're making that up, it's not real, and if you can't see it with your eyes, it doesn't exist, kind of thing. So
yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having that courage. I've had quite a few people that have kind of said like, yes, I'd like to be interviewed, but it brings up so much fear. For me at the moment, there's a lot of stuff coming up around the burning times. And I did a piece on that years ago, but it just keeps surfacing right now, to like really have that courage to stand up and say, I see life differently and my experience is different. So
I used to want to hug trees, and then I would look around in terror, like, oh my God, is someone going to see me? And then I would think like, well, what's the worst thing that would happen? But it's that genetic generations of fear around being seen in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a real fear around doing any kind of ceremony in nature, even when I can feel it's not really anybody around. There's this like, deep stuck fear in me. And this makes me kind of want to dive into the conversation about sensitivity. You were saying before we began that this has been a theme that's come up for you and that you felt was an important one to explore and give a voice to. So
Thank you. Yeah, I've been working with sensitivity my whole life. I definitely was one of those children who felt a lot and experienced a lot, and kind of had to learn how to protect myself in terms of like not watching horror movies or listening to really loud music, or just like kind of working with that sensitivity. And again, like with the dominant culture, there's that sense of like, oh, you're too sensitive, like buck up. And certainly there's a lot of value in like learning how to like be grounded and like have build our protection around us. But at the same time, it took me until I was in my 20s to see that sensitivity as not a curse but actually a gift, and to realize that that sensitivity is what allows me to connect with flowers or nature or subtle energies or the tiny little beautiful things that other people might just kind of bypass and or maybe not have as much ready access to. And so it has been kind of a lot of years of really trying to reframe it for myself, like, okay, it's it's not like you're too sensitive, it's that you've been given a gift that you need to learn how to work with in the world that you're in. And yes, it will be loud, and there will be big trucks and big crowds and all these things and smells and electronics and you name it. And so learning to work with that, but then also really honoring that gift. And I was telling you that even recently in the last couple of months, I had to kind of revisit the whole conversation within myself, because I realized that I still was kind of beating myself up and thinking of sensitivity as just a weakness in part of me. And so when I really sat with it and really started to think, okay, what is sensitivity though? Because the word was what was kind of triggering me to think like, ugh, sensitivity, it's not a gift. Ugh. What I realized is sensitivity at its core is listening. And so for me, listening is not a negative thing. I'm like, oh, to be a good listener, how wonderful. I don't have to beat myself up about being a good listener. And to me, that listening is not listening just with our ears or with our eyes, but opening it up to all of the senses. And so listening to energies or noticing a smell, like I'll smell cedar, and to me, that's the cedar tree communicating. And then I'll be like, where's the cedar tree? Let's go find him or her. And so it's those ways to reframe, I think, so that we can actually work with the gifts instead of feel.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, what's coming to me as you were talking, I was like, oh, it's all about receptivity and the receptive aspect of ourselves, which is that feminine energy. I've been like really looking at the yin energy and the feminine energy and how this all relates with the elemental beings and being able to access those other realms. So we're not taught in our cultures that the yin energies are important. Everything's very yang, forward, outward, and when we access these realms, it's about being in. We have to be in our bodies and we have to receive through our senses. And that's what being sensitive is. I've never done that. I've never heard it like that before. It's our senses, isn't it? We receive. It's like being totally sensitive, like feeling everything.
Wow, I never put that together either. Sense and sensitivity, that you are connected to the senses. Okay, we just solved the whole thing.
So funny.
Wow.
It's so funny. So often these things are right there in the word, aren't they? Yeah. That's really funny.
Oh, listening with all the senses. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that means slowing right down as well.
Oh, yes.
In order to be able to listen and yeah,
and in our modern world, especially with the cell phones, I myself find that I get so distracted, and it's really training us not to be aware of our senses. And so I do worry for myself and others, like, oh my gosh, we're going to need to take extra time to slow down and just like be, instead of like checking email.
Yeah, it's so true. I've noticed my attention span when I'm online now, it's like about 3 seconds. I'm like, right, bored. Yeah, I'm like, what? But not when I'm in nature, though. When I'm in nature, everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels like such an important subject for people to celebrate their sensitivity as a gift. I think there's so many people that actually they are very sensitive beings, and what's coming to me as well, it's like there's so much depression and around that, it's related to depression.
Yeah, and also the numbing out, because a lot of times when we are really sensitive, we are open, there is a lot in the world, and we do feel a lot, and we're feeling other people, and we're feeling, the pain of the trees and all these things. And the one way to escape from feeling all those things is numbing out, whether it's through food or alcohol or television or whatever it is. And so yeah, the disconnection, I mean, that's what keeps coming up for me, is that I think we're all longing to be connected, but there's so much that's pulling us towards disconnection, because it can be painful.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there I wondered if there are any stories that come to mind for you where you're aware of your sensitivity and where you've had an experience because of that gift that's allowed you to either to connect with something or brought insight or healing or
Yeah, I'm thinking of two examples, and both happen to be in beautiful places of nature, which makes sense. But when I was in my early 20s, I went on a yoga retreat, which is a really, of course, a privilege. And I went with a college friend.
Okay, so we just dropped out for a moment, so we're going to continue from where you were. From you were about 20. You were going to share an experience.
Yeah, this experience comes to mind that was really transformative for me, and that I was taking a hike with a group of people in the valley of Ojai in California. And it was a really special place. And I think the sun was setting, and we were doing a silent hike, which was unusual for me. I had never experienced that before, to be with a group of people quietly in nature, sort of turning within, like we were talking about. And in that time of my life, I'd been working through a lot of things around family, and just like, healing from certain things in childhood around family. And I heard this voice within pretty soon into the walk. And it just said, the land will be your mother, the land will be your father. And I was filled with this sense of that there's something greater that holds us, even beyond, our human and, trying their best parents that are so beautiful in their own way, but they are, we're all limited with our own experience. And so this sense that the land itself can hold us like a parent, and that it's a place to return to for nourishment, that was a life-changing moment for me, and really shifted the way that I guess interacted with the world, now that I think about it.
Wow, what a beautiful experience to be gifted.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing that comes to mind, that was, at the time, I didn't really think about it much, because I think we sometimes disregard things that have to do with more of like the unseen fairy realms, as just kind of like, oh, did I make that up? But when I was in my late 20s, I was up in Nova Scotia, in a beautiful nature area, again, not a lot of humans living there. And I remember I was lying down to take a little nap, and suddenly all these tiny little beings, which I would call fairies, were just poking me all over my body, just like poking me. And I was just like almost a little between waking and sleeping. So I couldn't really get up out of the bed, but I was like, what is happening? And then I had a vision of this kind of like divine feminine being who was like showering this beautiful white, almost like snow, but it was like energetic snow. And she said, I will always be here for you.
Mm.
And again, just filled with that feeling of that being truly supported by something other than what I knew in my daily life. And it came at such a good time. And I think probably those two events, the connection to the land and then the connection then to the feminine and that kind of more like great mother, that has been guiding me ever since.
Mm. That's so beautiful. And it's such a different energy to the patriarchal God energy that I certainly in my growing up with Christianity was the religion around me, that it was like God fearing. And so to have that beautiful, holding, loving, nurturing energy, I mean,
That
that's just, it's
yeah.
so my desire, I think, with this channel, with the work that I want to put out in the world, is to like really support people to experience that beautiful holding, that actually life loves them and is with them and supports them, and it really is that mothering, and I feel it like the mothering energy. Wow.
And even
Wow.
to remember and to pay attention to those, because honestly at the time I kind of just like woke up and like ate a bowl of cereal and was like, whatever, that was like an interesting dream. Or but now when I think about it, wow, that was the fairies opening a door for me,
Mm, mm.
initiation, and how precious. And thank God I didn't even forget, because we can.
Yeah, well, I think seeds get planted as well, don't they? And they do go into our subconscious, even if we do forget them. They're there, and then they grow, and then they come. They arise when it's time for them to arise, where we can fully understand it as well. I'd
Yeah,
love and I'd love to ask, like, I know when I share my stories around connecting with Fae, and people say, and I say, oh, I saw them or whatever, or they were poking me, like you said, they're poking me. So I just wonder for you, on what level you experience that. You said,
yeah. So
yeah.
for me it's mostly in my mind's eye, um, but it's different than imagination of just my mind making something up. It's more of like a vision coming into my mind's eye, and then I'll be shown things that my mind doesn't know in this lifetime. Like I don't know the use of certain plants or what that flower is called, but it'll just come right in. And
Yes.
so I think of that as like more of like a channel where I'm receiving and again like listening, as opposed to, oh, this is knowledge I read in a book and stored in this particular brain kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's mind's eye. There's also a feeling for me with the Fae energy that is something that I feel like others remember when they were a child, and they would be maybe like by a bubbling brook or in a field with flowers. Like there's this feeling that's you can't really describe in words, of magic and something potent, something like sparkly almost. And as an adult, a lot of unlearning to remember how to connect with that, I think happens. But so it's like a felt sense too, I guess.
Yeah, and that goes back to the sensitivity, doesn't it? And the slowing down, that to be able to experience those realms on that level. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And sometimes,
Somehow,
oh, good.
go on.
Well, it just got me thinking that sometimes I wonder, have those places become fewer and more far between in
Mm,
our modern age, or is it me as becoming an adult, kind of having been through schooling and all that, where it's harder for me to connect to those?
mm.
And perhaps it's a little bit of both. Perhaps
I
there
think
aren't
so.
as many sanctuaries for nature beings to really do their work as there were in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think both are true, and I often I feel for myself that, like, my job is to go out and feel it in places, almost in order to kind of bring it back again. Um, Yeah. I think we all have the ability to feel it, and sometimes I do feel it in towns and stuff. I think it can be there, but again, you've got to be really open and receptive, and you've got to be willing to see it and see it differently. But I don't think it's not there like it once was. I don't think yeah. I mean, there's so much destruction of the natural world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Sometimes I'm filled with hope because I'll find like an incredible purple thistle like in the parking lot of the drugstore, and I'll just be like, oh my God, how did you get here? Like, this is amazing. It's just like, I'm here, I'm just doing my medicine, whatever. I don't care. This is a parking lot.
yeah,
So it gives me a lot of hope.
yeah. Really, I mean, you can see nature takes over. If nature's left alone, or if an area is left, nature will take it back over again. It will reclaim it. So yeah, I have hope too, and I think it's really important that we hold on to that. And I think I really feel that it's through that we can bring it back. I really think we can bring it back. We
The
can,
noticing, the acknowledging, the even just like saying hi, like, oh, hey, I see you.
yeah,
Thanks for being
totally,
here.
yeah.
And maybe the next step then, and I'm learning a lot about this now, is about offerings. So acknowledging with
Mhm.
gratitude and being able to share offerings, whether it's a piece of hair or a little bit of our sandwich or
Yeah,
something substantial. Here in North America, tobacco is often used as an offering or a prayer plant. So
yeah, it's the giving back, isn't it? It's allowing that full cycle. And it's opening a conversation, I think, as well. When we give back, we're like saying that we acknowledge there's something to give back to as well. Yeah, I really love that. Yeah. So I'd love to also dive in and talk about your art, and yeah, so you've got two Instagram accounts that I've seen, um, and with different expressions that come through you. Yeah, would you like to share a little bit about the inspiration behind your offerings?
yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, at MoonTent on Instagram, I have kind of like a almost daily practice of making these flower mandalas using whatever leaves and flowers I find in my yard or my neighborhood, or my husband likes to buy me flowers because he knows that I like flowers, and I'll do many things with them. And so that's been a really sweet way to kind of just like almost balance myself by making like the four directions or making something with symmetry. It's very pleasing to me to be able to create in that way. And for me, sharing it has really been about, there's so much that we're going through as humanity. There's so much online, terrible news stories, things that are happening. And for me, it's like almost just a little offering into
Mm.
the web, the
Mm.
online of beauty. Just like, here's a little beauty offering, just so someone can take a little pause between the wreckage, basically. And it's not to be in denial or be naive about what's happening in the world, but really just to nourish ourselves. Because for me,
Mm.
beauty is truly a medicine. And so I try
Mhm.
to cultivate that. And so it's a gift to me. And then I'm like, well, I might as well share it. So in case
Yeah,
other people like looking at something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Your account's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And it's been amazing because it's almost like a call out to the world. It's almost like the way that flowers function to attract the bees and to attract life and create fertility for the land. Like for me, I'm like, here's my little flower. And then these beautiful people connect
Mm.
with me. And it's like we already understand sort of like what energy we're working with. And so it's like an advertisement or something. Like,
I love that.
I'll make things like this. Come over here.
It's
And I
so
also,
beautiful.
yeah, I found that sometimes I want to share things that are a little more direct or I wouldn't say harsh, but sometimes the words I want to say, I want to like say something really true. So I pair it with a beautiful image because I feel like it helps invite people in so that they can receive something that's like, hey, why are we treating mothers poorly? Like, this is silly. Things like that. So,
Yeah, I like that. There's a full spectrum, you know, we got to, and there's power in nature, isn't there? There's power and medicine in the flowers as well. It would be really fascinating to know what probably there's a correlation between the flowers that you're sharing as well, that they have a medicine. There probably is. You're probably, you know, like,
sometimes I know it. Like I'll
right.
know, okay, this is a lemon balm leaf and I'm going to be talking about this. But sometimes I just, yeah, I don't even know. But the color or something about it speaks.
Yeah, yeah. What are you holding, by the way? You've
Oh,
got a leaf.
I'm holding a lemon balm leaf.
Yeah.
I have so much growing outside my door. And so I just thought to myself, well, I must need lemon balm then.
That's so nice. It's so true, isn't it? It's calming.
Yeah.
I could do with a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Mm.
the other Instagram is something I started more recently, and I was telling you a little bit of the story of how I started making these clay
Mm.
ceramic little pieces, which I tend to call elders because they often have these teensy tiny little faces in them, and they're of these little old people who have closed eyes and a smile, who just, to me, are holding a lot of serenity and calm and peace. And so
Mm.
I make like these little planters that have these faces on them. And for me, it's also a reminder that, you know, that all these things are alive and that they're people, that the plant people are people, or that, yeah, so much of life is alive. And I guess as humans, we tend to privilege our sight sense. And so if it has a face, it's easier for us to think like, oh, that's a being that exists and is a person. So
Yeah,
I just
that's
like to,
funny. I mean, I see little faces in everything. So to me, everything is alive, like the trees and the flowers. And for me, there's just faces everywhere.
absolutely, I'm the same. And that happens to me with the clay, where sometimes the clay will be like, tell me, like, this is who I am. Like, here's my nose, here's my eyes. Like, don't mess around. Like, this is how I'm going to be shaped. And sometimes I get to like do my own thing, kind of. But really,
Mm.
it feels like more of a channeled thing. And I was telling you, it feels very much like a gift from the Fae.
Mm.
Because I did not have the ability to make things with clay or ceramics even a couple of years ago. I tried, I took classes, and I was really terrible. And I was like, okay, that's not my art form. And then I went through a process of a big giveaway where I gave away many of my most, at the time, beautiful and prized possessions. And it was tough for me as a modern person, and I like pretty things and stuff. So I was like, oh God, do I really have to give this away? But I did, and almost immediately a flood of incredible creativity and openness and like an unstuck part of my life, and especially in my creativity, to open up to all these new forms of expression. And so I really learned the lesson, which I'm sure many people already had learned, but it took me 35 years to get, that when you give, you receive.
Mm-hmm.
So entering that flow of generosity. And I guess it translates also to my daily practice of giving offerings now to Mother Nature, whether it's honey or milk or sesame seeds, of saying thank you, because I realize if I'm not giving anything, then I'm not going to be flowing myself. So I won't be able to create.
That's so beautiful. That's a lovely reminder. I feel like it's a reminder to me as well in this moment. I did used to do a lot of I would make mandalas or I'd give offerings, but for some reason I haven't done quite so much recently. So that's a lovely. I've shifted where I live, and it's kind of, I feel like I'm just getting to know where I am now again. So I think it would be I'm going to start that practice tomorrow. Thank you for for that reminder. I think it's really important.
It can be
Yeah.
really grounding. Just even like, I live in the city, I live in Portland, and I have a little yard in the front. And even though sometimes I'm embarrassed, like, are the neighbors going to see me? But I'm just out there, like, making my offering, singing a song. Sometimes I bring my toddler and he sings a song, and it's
Oh,
really sweet.
that's so beautiful. How lucky he is to have to grow up with that. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Um, I kind of wanted to go back to the clay thing for a minute. I just wondered if you like, just interesting, the words that you used around it was really the energy that I felt when I tuned in before. I can't remember what you said now, like calm and peaceful. Um,
Yeah, that the little elders are holding for us.
yeah. Well, like, have you kind of tuned into like who they are or what this energy is, or yeah, just
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery to me, but I get the sense that it is very tied to the little people. And from what I understand, I'm learning a lot about this, that there are many different nations of little people. And for me, what I started with making, the first set of things that I made were a series of elders, and each one was a different elder of maybe like a little nation, so, or a big
mm,
nation. We say little, I don't know why. But one I got the sense was like a Lemurian elder, and one was an Atlantean elder, and one was a goose, and one was a wolf, and one was a snake. And they were just all just like holding like the eldership of that people, I guess. Which, yeah, I guess maybe I'm learning something by making them, because I'm not really thinking. And that's what's nice about this art form as opposed to the mandala, where the mandala is very like controlled and I get to make it just how I want it with my little
mhm,
like perfectionist whatever. But with the clay, it's just whatever's coming. Like, I'm trying to make a deer, but it comes out a wolf, and I'm like, okay. And like the ring I'm making, I was trying to make a little elder face because I had one before and it broke. Sure enough, it turned out to be a snake, and I was like, well, I wasn't really planning on wearing a snake because that seems a little intense, but it was like, I'm a snake. So, so
so I
yeah.
love that. I've got a snake on as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had that nearly all my life. Like, it was given to me by an auntie who changed her name to Gaia before I even knew what the name Gaia was or anything. And
Whoa.
yeah, so I think there's some potent medicine in with this snake energy, like reawakening this feminine aspect that wants to speak now, that's like ready to have the courage to talk about all of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that feminine is also remembering to play, which
Hmm.
part of that clay situation is me being taught by, whether it's the nature spirits or the fae, to remember, hey, you're a creative being. Playing is creativity, playing is sacred. And
Yeah.
remember how you can dream something up and you can make it physically. And clay is such an easy way to actually manifest in like 2 seconds without even meaning to. And I think it can be a really good like learning ground, because I feel like I'm like in preschool of understanding how to be like a full human with my full capacity, because we just haven't been taught,
No.
how to work with these incredible faculties that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. I love the sense of, as you're talking, I'm just getting the sense of like we're playing, but it's like you're working with a consciousness as well. So like it's like it's a play and a dance with what wants to come through, and like it sounds like you're creating your own medicine as well, and creating, I don't know, just bringing magic into the world. That's the sense I get with what you share. Like your ability to bring magic into the world and to see beauty, and to really live those aspects. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, they're definitely reminders for me more than anything. And so when I wear, a necklace that I made or something like that, it's to remember, like, remember the magic, remember
Mhm.
also the beings you're connected to that have your back, the elders that you are learning from, that kind of thing. And yeah, just wanting to make it more, I guess, visible to other
Mhm.
people. Like, yes, these things exist. And also like the tiniest things are so potent, so magical, and so beautiful that like, let's remember to be like, ooh, like I made this bead the other day that was like literally this big, and it was like this teensy elder, but I'm like, this little guy is so powerful. Like,
Yeah.
just trying to retrain like what we think is powerful, I guess.
Yeah, for me, like the Fae and the elemental realms, and like these are beings that know how to manifest. These are like, these beings are like taking care of nature for us, you know, on some level. I think there's so many different levels to these realms. And I feel like a beginner, you know, like in learning about it all. Which is partly why I do these interviews as well, because I get to learn from other people and their experiences, which is really great. But yeah, I think little is doesn't mean nothing.
I mean, pollen is tiny. A piece of a seed is tiny, and I mean, it contains everything that keeps us alive. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, is there anything else that yeah, that you feel like you'd like to bring into the conversation or to share or
hmm, I guess. I guess I would just say, you know, to encourage people who feel like maybe they're newer to this world as I am, you know, in all honesty as well, just to start listening and just like taking a walk around the neighborhood, whether they're in a city or in the country, and kind of seeing who might want to say hi and saying hi back,
mm,
whether it's a stone or a bird or a bush or a flower. And um, yeah, I think there are people who think like, oh, well, I'm, you know, I'm not gifted or sensitive, or I can't talk to flowers and plants or whatever. But the truth is, I think that we, as humans, we have evolved to be in connection and communication with the natural world because we are, in fact, nature ourselves. And it's really less about like learning the gifts and more of like remembering who we really are and how we naturally can be, really. And I think that's part of the feminine is you don't have to strive to be like, okay, I'm gonna sit in front of this plant and it's gonna talk to me, gosh darn it, like somehow we're gonna communicate if I concentrate hard enough. It's really more in,
I've tried that way. It doesn't
yeah,
work.
it's so funny because it's really in the like literally settling in, surrendering, and
Mm,
humbly with humility and love in your heart, just being like, hey, dandelion flower, I'm just as human and I don't know how to talk to you, but I'm just going to be here with you if that's okay. Here's a little offering. And then just sitting there and noticing, just like, did the breeze change? Did a cloud move? What do you notice about the color of the plant? What do you notice about what you're smelling? How's it moving? How do you think water moves through the plant? Like all those things can actually tell us so much. And before you know it, you'll walk away having learned something about life. And you'll think like, oh, did I just make that up? Like, did dandelion just teach me about resilience? But dandelion did. Like, just, you know, don't doubt yourself.
yeah,
It's real. Yeah. So I would just encourage people to do that because
yeah.
we're more powerful than we realize.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And like you say, I think we really all do. We do have the ability to do it. All of us. We can all, yeah, just slowing down and feeling and sensing and looking and receiving. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and having the courage to have this conversation. It's like, yeah, and to share everything that you're sharing. I will I will share your links as well to your so people can come and find out what you're doing. And yeah, I just feel to ask you a little bit as well, maybe about your podcasts. So people might want to go and check out. You've got quite a lot. You've done quite a lot of interviews as well yourself.
Yeah,
So yeah, just quickly, just speaking to like what your intention is behind those, and
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for about a year and a half, I've been producing a podcast called Moonwise, which is on iTunes, and it's on MoonTentCo, my website. And it comes out on the new moon and the full moon. So it helps me, and I think my listeners also, to kind of connect with nature's cycles and honor that part of life. And on the new moon, we talk about a lunar forecast. So I work with my mentor who works in astrology as well, and she kind of weaves in like how, what's the weather forecast basically from the stars for the coming month. And then on the full moon, I have conversations with, so far it's been women, but we'll see, about self-care and health and connection to nature, and really trying to uplift the feminine voice in all of us. And I've been learning a lot, and mostly things also that I feel like perhaps in older cultures you would have learned these things from your mother, your grandmother, your aunties, like in your women's moon tent, where you would go to bleed or to give birth or die or whatever it is. But in our modern times, we don't have that tent or that space for the women, often. And so really just trying to create that virtual space to share knowledge, to share wisdom, and to talk to those wisdom carriers who, whether they are coming from still intact cultures that have this knowledge, or people who've been relearning and channeling new things, can get the information out there, because we deserve to know how to take care of ourselves and take care of life.
That's so beautiful. Oh, thank you for doing this work and bringing wisdom back. It's just, yeah, and it's all here. It is all here still. It's just, yeah, like I get a sense sometimes it's in the land still, and it's in our DNA. It's in our bodies, and yeah, these kinds of conversations, I think, help to activate remembrance within our beings as well. So yeah, thank you so much. It's just been such a delight for me to get to speak with you, and yeah, and
Thank
hear
you
your
so much.
stories. And
Thank
oh
you
no,
platform. Yeah.
I'm about to trying to finish the conversation. And I was like, oh, you had another story, and it's just this always happens. Like suddenly something jumps into my mind, and I'm like, do we have time for that quickly? There was one, wasn't there? Was it a poke? You had a.
Poke root.
Do we have time for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we completely finish.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought it up, because I am big on singing the praises of what we call weeds. And
Me too. Me too. Don't pull them up.
yeah, there are medicine chests, and I've been lucky to have a lot of herbal medicine teachers in my life. And I recently had this experience of being healed by poke root, which is a plant that, at least here in the Pacific Northwest, is very much considered a weed and undesirable in the garden, and very, strong with big roots. And it's like, oh God, it's a nightmare to get it out or whatever. And my friend happened to have a poke root in her backyard. And she told me that she had this feeling that this plant was very much a grandmother energy. And so she and her sister, they're such beautiful people, Ray and Sarah Grace, oh my gosh. They dug up some poke root while singing a beautiful grandmother song to the plant, asking it if they can, take some root for healing. Oh, they're such lovely people. And they made an oil with the poke root. And so I actually felt that I had like a lump in my breast recently, and was like kind of nervous about it. And I was like, oh God, like, do I need to go get a biopsy? What's the whole deal here? And my friend Ray told me, just try the poke root oil. And so I used it every day for about a week and a half. And I'm telling you, it just went away. It healed. It like just, it 100%, like. And so then I looked up, like, what is poker? Like, what is this miraculous plant? And apparently it's been known to be really great for supporting lymphatic and breast tissue, and also like glands in the throat. and really good for mastitis, for mothers who are like overdoing basically, and really good at moving trauma out of the body. And so I just have to sing the praises of poke root, because I feel so deeply grateful for this medicine. And it both healed the physical thing that I was feeling, but it also very much moved trauma out of my body from
Amazing.
things like long ago that I thought had totally been resolved. And anyway, long story about poke root, but just, man, it just kills me that people would say that this is like this pesky weed, and here it literally may have saved my life.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. It
Yeah.
feels, yeah, that it feels really good to just bring through that, the wisdom from the plants, and that they're here and they're around us. I think you mentioned that earlier with the lemon. What was it you had? Lemon verbena. Yeah, that often the plants growing around us are the plants that are there to support our healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, wow, that's so beautiful. I'm pleased I just got that in at the end. That's yeah. That's a really magical story. I'm really yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that it helped you in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Wow. I really felt like there's a reverence towards the plant as you were speaking. Like, just like, wow. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like I don't even know what to do with my gratitude. I went, I'm like, can I make offerings to this plant? And the only thing that comes to mind is just tell people
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is here, and yeah, don't mistreat it, or at least respect.
Yeah,
So
I'm curious to see what it looks like, and I don't know if it would grow in my country, but I might have to go and check it out. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for all your stories and your time and your beautiful energy. So, um, yeah, does this feel complete for you?
feels so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. Yeah. And thank you to everybody who's watched today. And do go and check out the podcast and Instagram account, MoonTent, and I'll leave all the links below. So much love to you. Thank you for watching.